Good evening, everyone, and welcome to an LPAlliance spotlight stream. We are LPAlliance, Intercaucus Coalition, rebuilding the Libertarian Party and revolutionizing the liberty movement. My name is Amanda Griffiths. I'm joined by Rob Yates, who's already looking down at his phone as though he has nothing better to do.
Hey, I'm promoting us right now, for the record. I'm promoting us.
Fair. All right. So we've got Rob Yates, and we have, and he loves it when I call him this, the God King Mongol Phil Rein. Phil, it is LPAlliance's birthday in a couple of days. Happy birthday to LPAlliance and its first movers. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I really can't complain. I think this is going to be a little bit different because you guys are asking the questions of me. So it's the first time that's kind of ever happened on here for me.
Yes.
But it should be fun.
Yes, we are very happy to have you. So yes, LPAlliance as a Discord group, which began trivia time as a group called Refocus LNC, was started on, let's see, it was the Friday, so 16th, 15th, 14th of November last year. What caused you to start the group that was initially called Refocus LNC? And I know that, there was a bunch of discussion with a bunch of people, but the Discord was created by you. What brought that on?
I've really kind of stayed out of the party, but the year prior in 2024, the party had just become such an affront to everything that I considered kind of the standard for liberty. And I realized that the real problem was that a lot of people like me probably weren't engaged in the party, probably because of the way it's designed with the parliamentary games and kind of the bad actors being allowed to run free and kind of everybody else is handcuffed to just deal with it and be stuck with kind of the outlash from it. And so I was like, I'm going to put a message out into a Facebook group and ask people, like, wherever you are on the libertarian spectrum, are you willing to kind of drop the things that are bothering you about maybe a slight difference in an ideology with somebody else and work together to like actually fix this thing and not have this kind of embarrassing train wreck that kind of went out and supported the most authoritarian president we've had in my entire life. And from on the outside, I thought all libertarians would just recognize automatically that Trump was kind of this threat. I think they're all pretty much awoken to it now, except for very few people. But that was the real goal, was like, hey, whatever's going on here is clearly not a libertarian party that I want to be involved with, and probably a bunch of people like me don't want to be involved in.
So what was it that made you said you'd been on the sidelines, you'd been part of the party, but you hadn't really done anything. Yeah. What pushed you over the edge at that particular time?
I think it was after Trump had won, and then like statements of like, he's a libertarian president, and kind of this weird game where we traded one life for us co-signing somebody who wants to kill more Ross Ulbrichts. Yes, it was great that he got out. You can celebrate that, but like that does not mean that the action is like a libertarian process. And so it's really hard to see that and then kind of see everything that I thought that the party should be being ignored. And so, yeah, that was kind of the last straw when I was like, these people are proud of their kind of subversion. And it was like, we have to do something. And so like a lot of people like immediately responded when I put out, like, it was literally like a Google form. And Amanda was one of them initially who got involved, and it was asking like, what are your talents? Are you willing to kind of come around together with people you might think differently from, and find a path forward? And it was inspiring. I was like, okay, so there's tons of people that are interested. And then, Devin Saxon said, hey, we should do this in Discord. We should get organization going. And so I went out and got a Discord made. And then everybody kind of came in that was in the first movers on that email chain from the Google form, like immediately. And we just started talking and figuring it out. And it was a lot of open discussion of like, what do we want from the party? Even though we all had kind of vastly different ideals, and the fact that we could communicate in a way that wasn't like, you're not a real libertarian, was kind of inspiring, right? And we had people ranging from Ron Paul style, liberty Republicans, all the way to full blown anarchists, both left and right. And so that was like whoa, this can be done. And we were kind of just distilling out, how does that happen in kind of the early stages. But yeah, it was probably the most excited I had been to see that there was just anybody that was along the same mentality.
Yeah. to be clear, I think I got involved by messaging you and asking, how do I get into this Discord because I can't figure it out. So my talents did not include getting into a Discord server independently. I believe that was our first direct interaction.
Probably,
but yeah,
yeah.
very good. Yeah, I think I there were about 12 of us when I came in, and the first few days, there's this hive of activity, right? So there was this discussion of, okay, we need to have a plan because this has happened so many times before. People have tried to do something to reroute the party, and what people want to know is why we're different. So we have to say, here's what we're working toward, and here's, generally speaking, how we're going to do it. I think some of the early battles that we had were how much do we divulge in terms of strategy, and how specific are we in terms of what we want to see, because we were such a broad coalition. I think what we ended up settling on was, well, we have to be very specific about the things that we can all agree on. But the things that we can all agree on are pretty, they're few, but they are specific.
Unity for one.
We never agreed on unity, and Rob is lying, and Rob is basically here just to provide a foil.
Often the case.
Rob, when did you even come in? When you
it's funny. I was just thinking that I actually think Phil was the first person, because it's been almost a year, and I think, Phil, you were like, hey, I don't know, we connected and I sent you like a podcast or something, and you were like, would you ever want to do a live stream with us? Let me introduce you to Amanda and Kyle. And then I was just like, hey, they're actually relatively cool, which is not normal in the party.
That was kind of like the way I operated at the time. Was I was just reaching out to everybody, sending out messages, being like, this person seems like they get it, let's send a message. And I still do that to this day, but it's much more tuned, I think, to kind of the goals and how we've changed, kind of the trajectories that we're doing inside of LPAlliance. And I'm still reaching out to people consistently. I may not be able to be on live streams as much because of my schedule, but I'm still doing that sort of work. And I think it's something we probably all should keep doing,
Yeah. And this is something that you're very good at that I am not as good at. That you are one of those people who will just see someone and reach out to them. As someone who was relatively unknown in the party, did you have any apprehension around doing that, around just reaching out and talking to people who are more established in the party?
No, not really.
No.
I think like the first thing was like our first, live stream. We had like Chase Oliver on. We had like 7 other people from different organizations that have been established in the party. And I think most of those people all had kind of the same thinking that we had, that like what's been going on has been super fucked up.
Right.
And I think they were like immediately like, I figured if I reach out and I say, this is what we're trying to do, that most people would be probably, if they're not kind of on the trajectory that we want to see, they're going to say yes and come hang out, get to know us, that sort of thing. And I guess I've always kind of just been like, I don't really care if somebody says no, doesn't want to talk to me, doesn't answer me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to be like offended by it,
I think some buzzwords or buzz phrases are learned helplessness and shared delusion. There were so many people who wanted to do something like this for a really long time. I believe you're talking about the folks who we all seem to be kind of on the same page, generally speaking. I think when the powers that be, whether that's within the party or outside of the party, do a good enough job of convincing you that you're alone, no matter how much you want to change things, you feel like it's pointless. And in reality, there are so many more people who want something at least within the ballpark of what we do. And we can coalition for as long as that is feasible. But there needs to be an apparatus for coalitioning with a clear enough message about what our plan is and what we're doing. That I think has been so much the magic of LPAlliance, has been having that basic mission statement, and then elaborating on it and saying, here's what we're doing for Grand Rapids Revolution. Here's where we want to go from there, and bringing people together. So that really has been fantastic. When we started, I remember we did not have any plans to do live streams within the first couple months, at least. And then it was at a meeting when Angela McCardle was planning to do the inauguration party. Yeah. And we figured out, okay, it would actually be really cool if we did a counter stream, which ended up being much more widely attended, so to speak, than the Hungry Hippos tournament at the rented out hookah bar in Washington, D.C. That Angela McArdle had. So what have been some of the most impressive things that you've seen with LPAlliance over the past year?
I think it's because we don't have like a strict hierarchical system. People can kind of just do the things that they're good at, that they're interested in. People kind of build up natural respect for the amount of effort they get put in. So there is really no like, hey, you have to do this thing. We want you to vote this exact way. It's much more of like, get involved, communicate, and then kind of people gain their respect and they get their whatever project they might be interested in. So like we roll out things faster than you could do otherwise, because we assume that the other people that are doing it are there for the same reasons. And so there's not this huge like, oh, Jake Border. Yeah, I think that was the start of us doing this whole live streaming thing.
Yeah,
so
it was.
Yeah, I think like our ability to like quickly adapt, our ability to handle kind of like we maintain a certain level of communication respect inside the Discord. And if somebody starts to like be abusive or be unwilling to mediate, we kind of say, hey, this is not cool. And it becomes like a way of filtering. Like you can tell when somebody's a bad actor. So we'll have bad actors come into the regular, like open general chat. And you'll know immediately, like the community will defend itself against kind of people that are coming in there to cause problems. So like these things, like the ability to like iterate and kind of like a natural just community interaction, I think has been the most interesting thing for me. Also, how quickly roll things out. Like we didn't have a movement journal, right? We didn't have a website. We didn't have any of this. And those were done like in very short succession. And each time they like expanded immediately. Like the number of publications that we put out, like for how our size of our outfit is kind of insane. And the kind of range in libertarian thought that we're presenting, anybody can come to us with if it's well written and not done by AI, obviously, document, and we're going to publish it. And we might argue against it. But so it's been pretty cool to see it just be this nobody's in charge kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. And
can I follow up on that question?
Yeah,
And this is for both of you, because one thing I have noticed with LPA, and it has been a pleasure working with y'all, and for real, and it's weird to say that in a libertarian group, like
because we're all so annoying.
No, I mean there have been a few bumps in the road, but they're mostly minor. Like I'm in a couple chats where it's like every 6 hours there's a massive fight. And that's like a pleasant day. So how have you all kept it so like nice?
How have we kept it nice?
I don't know. I think it's because the idea of like we have to have solidarity with one another when we're facing this kind of like outside totalitarianism rising, that like eventually the community is going to say like, all right, let's figure this out. If there is this kind of intractable problem, because there's been a few, we try to say, hey, like take this elsewhere. Like what your work you're doing here, let's try to keep this focused on kind of building out. But that's my opinion. I don't know what Amanda's is for how it's been.
I think a lot of it goes back to, mission focus, the fact that we are working toward, again, a small but specific set of things. So if there's disagreement about it, we don't have these huge policy disagreements, or when we do, right, that's in general chat. So we do have disagreements, we do have arguments and debates, but they're open. And then we kind of, we have this sense of camaraderie and fellowship that we're easily able to go back and forth where it doesn't become personal. And I think we've all had that experience, or like we're disagreeing with people that we work with, but it is in the name of trying to build something better. When people come in with good faith, as most people have, I think, there is a material element here, which is that folks are really ready for a change, and people came in knowing what they were getting into, at least initially, and knowing that we were all going to be working toward a common project, knowing that there were certain things that were too important to allow to get in the way of, or rather to allow other things to get in the way of. And so I credit really other people's dedication to what this cause is and their readiness to work toward it. I'm not sure if there's anything particularly magical about how we're organized, although I do think that the organization helps, and I want to ask Phil to elaborate on that a little bit. I think a lot of it has to do with all the folks who are in here just being ready. And that is something that's incredible to see come together in real time, especially when you spent several years doubting humanity in general. Seeing that folks actually can really care about something and can really work to build things that we should never have been able to scale in this amount of time. I guess before we get too much into that, I do want to go back, Phil. How do you explain the way that LPAlliance is organized to people who don't understand? Because there are a lot of folks who talk about like the leadership of LPAlliance, who think that the people that they see on live streams are naturally like in charge of LPAlliance, which is not true. I get shouted at all the time. And so does Kyle, usually by me, and so does Rob. But yeah, how is LPAlliance organized, and who's in charge other than you?
I mean, in reality, we have, just a set of moderators that essentially are going to make sure if there's like a really bad actor, somebody putting out slurs or something, we're going to remove them from the Discord.
It's a lie. I put out slurs all the time. No one's moderated.
It's because you bribe us. So
yeah,
fair play. That's true. Money goes a long way.
I think, and then like we just act as moderators, and for some of our projects, you might have some more defined kind of structure. So like when it comes to money, we developed a revolutionary spending committee that has set bylaws, right? Where it's like, this is how it has to be operated, because money's involved, right? But in reality, if you want to, I think the way we looked at it was, if you want a community that's going to operate off of good faith and community, and not being bound by some like, here's some hierarchical system where everybody has somebody's a chair and somebody's guiding this, that we just said, we're not going to do that for the general interaction. So in the general level, in a strategy level, and even in like the regular Alliance chat, it's just kind of open. If you've made it to that level of vetting, you're there, right? You can make decisions, you can start projects, you can pick out different things that you're good at, you can get involved in different places. And so there's really not like a lot of policing. You might see moderators come in occasionally if there's an argument happening and say something like, hey, we really do have to have solidarity here. There's very little things that we have to agree on, but we have to agree on those pretty well. And it seems like holding communication to some level of standard kind of helps that go a long way. And so I'll give an example. Like we have libertarian socialists, and we get called infiltrating leftists all the time, but I'm not actually a socialist. I'm a free market capitalist, right? And so like, I get called it all the time, but I will defend libertarian socialists if they are not the tanky types, if they really do believe in completely voluntary interactions. And I will go to bat for that. And that's kind of the vision that I would hope the LP party can take, is where leadership will represent libertarians that don't match their version of libertarian. Because I think that's the only way you can end up with solidarity. And it's one of the reasons why we put forward the idea of having kind of a cross caucus slate. So when we eventually go to Grand Rapids, we will have a revolution that will be guided by many schools of libertarian ideology. And hopefully all of those people have built out a strong enough personal relationship with one another to know that this is in good faith. We are working towards the same goals here. And that if there are struggles, we are going to communicate them without suddenly becoming enemies. Because that seems to be like what's plagued the LNC forever, is that if it's not fall in line, you're an enemy. And that should never be the way it should be. That ruins the individuality of free thought. There's a minute you kind of make that be a, like, you have to do this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, I don't know where that question started, but
is how are we organized?
And
then
yeah.
Okay. We have, spontaneous order. I think that's true. And I think another thing that has plagued the LNC is this fear, and I see it from everyone. So I'm not just calling out one caucus or another. I see it everywhere. This fear of dissent, this notion that we can't show people that we're disagreeing. It always has to be behind closed doors. I don't agree with that. One of the great things about libertarianism is that it's an ideology. And when you actually have an ideology, there is a foundation. There's a foundation of principles. And from there, you get to different conclusions. The important thing about bringing ideology back into our political discourse is people need to see what politics is supposed to be. Politics is supposed to be ideological. And then there are supposed to be debates about the conclusions to which that ideology leads. It's really valuable for people in the party to see that, and it's really valuable for people outside the party to see that. They see that through debates. They see that through disagreement, sometimes vehement disagreement. that's one thing that we need to see happening with LP National, but it starts with the membership, right? It starts with the membership not being afraid to stand up and say, I believe this very strongly, and I'm going to defend this position really strongly, and I expect and encourage anyone who feels differently to come and criticize this position with as much vehemence as I'm going to defend it. And that just needs to be across the board. That's one thing that we try to do with the torch. That's something that we need to continue to do. We need to have that going on with a public list, whatever iteration that takes after the revolution. So yeah, I love seeing that example being set by the membership in LPAlliance. It's really fantastic stuff.
I mean, like, we've had like near death feuds because you're like, we need to bring about communism, and I'm like, we can't do that. That's not what we're going to do. But like, I know, like, I don't hate you all of a sudden when you vote for Stalin, you know. But
not Stalin. Let's be clear here.
But, yeah, I'm the one who is supporting Stalin.
Yeah. Rob's the Stalinist.
She's a Trotskyist. It is. I don't want to gloss over this though, because
you don't want
we can have that death bat. Maybe I'll play Hungry Hippos for it.
Okay.
No, but just how relatively well people get along, and it doesn't mean people agree on everything in the alliance. In fact, people argue a lot. That's kind of our favorite pastime when there's a big or a small. I'll next year, Dave. But what you said earlier, it's like we accept that it's being done in good faith. And then we go from there. And it is unbelievable and refreshing. I have never been told I'm not a real libertarian in that group.
Well, you're not. So
no, well, I'm a Stalinist. So
Stalinist libertarian, according to some people on YouTube. Sorry, go on. I've seen that.
It's refreshing to me. It's eye-opening, but it's also it gives me some optimism. It should give everyone else. And I feel like you two should dwell on this for a minute. Like, we can work together. We can put aside differences on like anarchism versus minarchism, which we are so far away from, and focus on like we have a president who says tariffs aren't taxes, and then we're all getting a $2,000 tariff budget, and it's not, or a tariff refund or whatever, and it's not wealth redistribution. And a bunch of people, like, for the record, I'm not. Wu-Tang's not libertarian, or maybe they are, but there's a lot of people in MAGA, I think, who have a strong liberty bent. The problem is, and the reason is that they're so frustrated with the way things are. I get it. But the problem is they're willing to believe this demagogue socialist tyrant, and it's like the mythical frog in the boiling water. Each thing they will justify. If you were to present Trump's agenda now, like on a plate to them, they'd be like, no way, that's some socialist bullshit. But as he does each thing, they find the justification for each thing. And the political machine, the propaganda machine, is very good at, like, we're predicting it. Here's what they're going to say. And then they say it, but they're buying it. And, first it's tariffs aren't taxes, and then Massey's bad. And then he's trashing Massey's dead wife. And then Epstein files are a hoax. And just each thing that's thrown out, they buy. We're pushing back against this. There's this whole group of I think, people who would be liberty-minded, but are reacting based on fear. And so we're trying to push back against that. And the machine is powerful. The state's machine is powerful. There's a reason it is where it is. The first thing we have to do is learn to hold it together. And y'all have made that happen. And I was at a point where I was like, I don't know if this can happen. Like, I felt that libertarians would rather say, I told you so as the world burned, than actually do something about it. And I have hope again. I've been talk more about like how you go through each day with that. Because the way I see it, it's like you two, Devin, definitely, Kyle, obviously, but you were the force behind getting this started.
Kyle didn't really even come in until much later, so yeah. But,
yeah,
I didn't be mean to him because he's not even watching this. But no, I would defer to Phil first. The one comment that I would make is that I think that's what happens when a party becomes a candidate, right? The GOP just became about having Trump win. And having that name on the ticket win, and then the candidate gets to direct the party. But the thing about Trump is that he's not even ideological. So it's not even Trump's ideology running the party. It's just Trump running the party. And Trump's ideology is completely materially conditioned policy preferences, which is not ideology. And yeah, we need to inject ideology back into political discourse. But no, I guess directing Rob's question to Phil, yeah, how do you live with yourself, Phil? I don't know, Rob, how are you framing that question? What was the question actually?
Just day to day, and
Yeah.
and I guess so. Here we are, 1 year later, right? Roughly. I had a birthday hat I was going to wear. Y'all didn't see me come on. I also had a mask. I wasn't allowed to wear it. Amanda's really mean behind the scenes. Amanda's so mean behind the scenes.
Yeah, no.
No, but I did have a birthday hat, and then I got distracted by my mask, and then it was time to start. But so 1 year later, like, what is the thought process? How have things evolved? How have you changed? I mean, not strategy. The strategy has been pretty consistent, but tactics. And how have you managed to keep a consistent environment where we can disagree respectfully, thinking everyone's acting in good faith with very few and generally relatively minor eruptions?
Well, I think like if somebody suddenly starts just accusing others of bad faith interaction automatically, that's kind of a good sign that they're not actually there in good faith. If you're not automatically just saying, hey, we're going to assume that we're all working in the same direction and just go with that. And if something disagrees, you don't like it, it's not a personal offense to you, or it shouldn't be. And so when people do that, it's like you have to respond in a certain way. And I think the community will just naturally kind of push people if they are not kind of falling into that, like, hey, let's just trust that everybody's here for the right reason, and then move forward. And we have a pretty like lengthy vetting process to get you to a point where you're in strategist level for the reason, because we want to know everybody here is for good faith. But if people come in and they're really like disengaging in disagreement and they're not abusing people, it doesn't, you'll be moved up. If somebody vouches for you that you're a good faith actor, you can move up. So I think that's just how it's been done, and it's worked well. So like a very small filtering mechanism that's driven by community engagement and behavior, and then just like fostering, again, like I said, even if you disagree with somebody, defending them if somebody starts to be abusive in communication. And we try to model that, especially in kind of our public facing chat, quite often. Yeah,
I think that's right. And in terms of how strategy has changed, so when we started, it was not, we had a list of conventions that we wanted to help out with. It was not every convention.
Yeah.
And a lot of the conventions on that list were things that were like, we can't really win this, but we just want to show people there's a fight to be had. On there was Colorado. On there was Michigan, right? And over time, we ended up not only just being to take on all of those conventions, but win conventions that we were never supposed to be able to win. I think at that point, our strategy didn't shift, but it developed new dimensions, and we sort of grew into something because of the creativity and the ingenuity of the membership, right? Like, it was always members coming and saying, let's do this, let's do that. I can help with this. I have an idea for that. And you do have to be a self-starter in LPAlliance. Like, people are not necessarily going to tell you what to do. But if you have an idea, we want to help you figure out how to do it and how to make it happen. And that's difficult, I think, sometimes for people when the expectation is, I'm going to propose something and somebody else is going to execute it. No, you need to execute it, or you need to find people who are going to help you execute it. But yeah, I think a lot of the ways that our strategy has shifted has just been the members being willing to take risks and give more and more of their time and thought to what we're doing and what we're building, which is going to extend far beyond Grand Rapids. I'm telling you guys right now, like, you're not getting rid of us after the revolution. It's called a revolution for a reason. It's the LPA Thanksgiving show free. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, it is like we definitely expanded after seeing that we could succeed. And like, I think a lot of people might get the misconception that we only do things online, or that we're only doing live streams, and they don't see the kind of phone banking efforts or the money that's donated to get people to conventions. They don't see that happening, spontaneous mutual aid to get people to conventions as tables.
Can I interrupt right there? Because that's one of the parts that impressed me the most. That's actually more the foundation of what was going on. Like, the live stream and the publications have built since then, but that's where it was really going.
Yeah.
Apologies for interrupting, but I was impressed.
No.
It was a real organizing effort.
That's important.
Yeah. I mean, we have like, systems to help with dialing. We have script writers. We have to call back former libertarians to get them involved in the party again and say, like, look, we know why you left. It's pretty clear. And like, what is it going to take for you to come back? And usually, if you can make a personal connection on that phone call, you can convert a decent amount of people to be like, okay, I'm willing to give this a shot again. Especially if they see movement, if they may have seen one of our journals, that sort of thing. And so it's hopeful when you have people that are like, I'm willing to donate time to make these phone calls. And we're saving up money from donations and stuff now to help people get to Grand Rapids. But really the amount of the money worth of time that people have given is like insane. Like the amount of weekends given to making phone calls, to just talking strategy and chats. And again, I think the reason why other things have failed, I think, is because they haven't been open. And these are like, if you're there and you're in the strategy level, like it's open, we're discussing this. Nobody's going to tell you to shut up,
And I think a big thing too is empowering people. And I always try to be really mindful of this because it is something that all of us could always do better with. I want people, and I think we all want people when they come into LPA to feel like their contributions are going to be valued. Is that perfect? No. But we want to hear everyone, and we want everyone to feel like a leader with something. That does take people being squeaky wheels and saying, I have the idea for this, being self-starters. But I really want people to feel not just like their voices will be heard, but like that they'll be credited.
Yeah.
So there are so many folks, and some people try to come in anonymously, and so we don't name all the names because they don't want to be named. But there's been so much behind the scenes, whether that's Devin making these really funny, creative videos, whether that's folks like Michael, who always has these amazing policy discussions. And actually, it was Michael who gave the idea for something like our Molotov cocktail hour that we now have on Saturday evenings.
If anyone wants to join, you should check it out. It is the most libertarian shit you can get in. That's where we nerd out.
Yeah.
It's fun. I like it.
It is fun.
It's like normies are welcome, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, you might be sent to the Gulag, which is a special Zoom room that Kyle created. Yeah.
We plan to put the dirty classical liberals there, so that's like that's the ultimate goal.
That's the thing. Honestly, that's the worst. That's the worst insult that people have given is that LPA is just a bunch of classical liberals. I'm like, classical fucking liberal. Insane.
But there are friends. Let's be honest here. Like we love
true.
them.
I just don't want that.
Don't put that on me or us as a whole.
Yeah. But no, I forget where I was going with that. Just that, I think a lot of it has to do with empowering people. When people feel like they're going to be heard, when people feel like they're going to be credited, people do more. I know that in my life, I know that, I've seen that with other people. And there's always more I think that all of us could do to be sure to credit people.
Well, yeah, I mean, community recognizing work, right? Like the amount of work that people put in, like that should be, recognized. And, I'll say it to Kyle all the time. He wears like 5 different hats in the liberty sphere, and so you give credit for that. And like, hey,
Zoom Room 4 is the Gulag, gross. That's correct.
But yeah, I think like giving recognition for like the things that are done, like is not done enough. And that's how you like really build community is like, this is a great idea. Right. And let's work on that great idea. And then as long as the person takes the first steps, then usually like a body of people will come around to support this idea, like right off the bat. So yeah, I think you're right. I think empowerment and then credit for what people do is important.
To answer the question, who are the LPAlliance contacts in Iowa? One of those would be Stephanie Berlin, who is doing amazing work. Hi, Terry.
Okay.
Good to see you.
You say the empowerment and the credit. So this is something I've often thought about because there was a fight probably for a few years up till about last year of a couple different factions accusing each other or the other side of just being a social club.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's sort of the wrong spirit. Everything's a social club. And
LPAlliance is a social club. Yeah.
North Korea is a social club. It's a fucked up social club, but it's a social club. This is a good social club with an objective, and the credit and the empowerment. It's inspirational. There's a foundation. There's people to help you out. And so you get productive action out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't think it can just be a social club, but that's important, right? Establishing that grounding of feeling, feeling a sense of camaraderie, feeling a sense of fellowship, solidarity, Rob, your favorite word. But that comes from feeling a home, like feeling like you have a home and an identity with the movement. In LPA, we want to create that movement identity, but it's constantly evolving because we're getting new members. Every single one of those new members contributes to that movement identity. And I always love it when I see someone join the Discord and like start to talk. Because that's all of us joined the Discord at one point, right? All of us were new at one point and we just started yapping. There's no secret recipe to start being heard except for just frickin' talk and introduce yourself and start saying things. This is not, we knew each other beforehand. Phil didn't know any of these crazy people beforehand. I barely knew any of these crazy people beforehand. I really didn't.
And then turns out you and I grew up like less than a mile apart.
Yeah, but aren't you like 80 years old? So, I mean, I don't really,
213.
Significantly older. So, but yeah, and then I find out a whole bunch of people like grew up in the DC area, and that's why we're also fucked up. But it's, I guess, so Phil, you were a PhD student. You had a life outside of the LP. Allegedly, you still do. What has anything changed in the way that you approach things, in the way that you think about anything related to the liberty movement since starting LPA, since that came about?
I mean, like if we're talking like before it started at all, I was very much like a let everything burn, and the party is shit, and like I basically would. I removed my registration as a libertarian after having it my entire adult life. And I was like, okay, like it's just gone. Right. And I would just prepare for the eventual fall of the American empire, essentially. And then I was like, man, like this is not that we can, like, you can't just give up on that. And even if there is a fall, people need to be organized, right. Both politically, and preparedness wise. And so I was like, okay, I have to do something. And we have to get people together, and we can shift this around if we get enough people that actually are good faith to come in. And like, I know some people might question that and be like, how are you good faith? You guys must hate like Mises Caucus people or former Mises Caucus people. But like, if anybody actually knows our group, even like our core group, there's a lot of people that are former Mises that were like, this is no longer,
Rose.
like Rose and Rob. And like the idea was that like it no longer represented them. It shifted away from where they were. And so like, we don't hold those grudges, right? It's just that, I think people kind of went along with something and didn't realize that there was ulterior motives, and that's where it ended up. So like legitimately we, come in, help shape it, and get a new friend group, right? Especially if your old one is toxic and you feel like it might be kind of draining to you. And you left the party because, it's just such a stressful environment to be in. Come back, I think you would see a different environment inside of LPAlliance. And then from there, hopefully we can kind of get our goals for the party, and then really shift the way things are done in the liberty sphere.
Have you, so I guess you're talking about how you've had your outlook on the LP shifted, and now like helping to create a group that has restored the faith, has restored others' faith in the Libertarian Party, has actually restored your faith in the Libertarian Party as well.
No, for sure. And like, especially when I'm reaching out to people that were abandoned by the party, people that were in militia movements that like the party didn't come to their aid at all, didn't put out fundraising efforts, didn't go to bat for pardons for some of these people, even though, the actions they were involved in are very libertarian in nature, people going to jail for, small drug offenses and firearms like that. How is that not being promoted by the party? Is like, this is a violation of justice. And so like hearing from those people being like, hey, like this is, when we start writing kind of our ideas out about kind of multi-pronged strategies, to not just have just political candidates, and that we really need to activate everybody in the liberty sphere. That has been exciting. Just seeing these other people being like, this is kind of what we want too. And it seems to keep growing more and more. Like we reach out, we communicate, and then, we either pull people in, or if it's somebody that, doesn't necessarily want to be public about their involvement, then we communicate sometimes in the back channels.
Right. Yeah, no, it's been really cool. And I guess talk a little bit about, because you were talking about reaching out to folks who had sort of been abandoned by the party, and that's something that you're working on pretty heavily right now. Do you want to say any more about that?
Yeah, we're looking at, kind of how the media kind of tarred and feathered the Boogaloo movement as being like bigots and like these people that were cheering on the idea of kind of a systematic collapse in America. And if you went any deeper than just the headlines, you would see the times they brought on like actual experts, and they would say like 99.9% of the people in that movement are anti-bigotry, and they're pro-liberty for everybody. But the news media spread that, and then that's a dirty thing that could be tied to the party. And instead of refuting those lies, the party shirked its kind of responsibility away. And then when those people were directly attacked by feds and saboteurs, the party was nowhere to be found. And I think this is a problem because we are so individualistic that we don't, when one of our individuals is kind of being harassed or attacked by the government, we kind of just shirk away and live in this kind of quiet comfort. And I don't think that's how we should be operating, right? We are, we have principles that we live off of, and if one of our own gets attacked in that way, there should be mutual aid support. There should be kind of a legal team of volunteers that work for the party that will go and help support people upon their case. There should be these other things that are like surrounding the party that kind of help operate this, to keep our activists and kind of our agitators against tyranny, keeping them in a better place. And so seeing what happened was, and hearing it now, it's kind of frustrating, and then seeing people's mothers sending messages in there about kind of what it was like to be left behind by this political body sucked. Seeing that and being like, well, fuck, maybe if people like me and more people like didn't just kind of back out of the party, it would have never gotten to this point, where it would fail that heavily,
Mm-hmm.
Well, following up on that, so one question I've certainly pondered, and I forget who first posed this. I read it, I don't know, maybe it was a Reason article last year or something, sort of a philosophical approach to organizing as a party. And the question is, how do you get a group of rabid individualists to work together towards something? And you were just talking about that, but we're kind of showing that, I don't know how, but it can be done.
So
like, what are we doing? I'm not sure, but it's working.
So I won't say that I'm sure, but unbeknownst to me, starting in my early 20s, became very interested in like the like great like individualistic liberation revolution of the 21st century, and what that was going to look like. And I started studying why mass movements succeeded and failed. And I didn't know how to articulate what it was that I was studying, but I was really trying to study how exactly that could happen. I was a baby libertarian and was trying to figure out how to create that distinction between individualism and atomism, which is not, it's a false individualism, because individualism is all about like being in community with others and continually iterating identity through action with others. And using your uniqueness to build something in community with others. So how does that happen? And how have we seen mass political movements evolve? What are the material conditions that make something likely to be successful? What are the material conditions that make something likely to fail? Realizing more and more that we were drifting toward a more individualistic movement paradigm naturally, because of decentralized tech, because of decentralized labor, because of digital media, and instant, the instant media and attention economy, and the creator economy. So taking all of that, it was really during the COVID years then that I started looking into, how do we actually put this into action? I didn't at the time have a ton of faith in the Libertarian Party, except I just knew that it was going to be really important. And I didn't know how to make it important. And as for how you get individuals to not be atomists and to really work together, this party of individuals, I do think it comes down to creating an apparatus whereby people can augment and develop, enrich their individuality through working toward a common cause. And then everything becomes maximized. One of the hardest things, one of the hugest challenges in creating that apparatus is getting people to see it. That's honestly, I think publicity has been the hugest challenge. Once people see it, a lot of people get the faith in it. And another difficult thing is overcoming, again, the shared delusion and learned helplessness that people have. It is so easy because the powers that be have convinced people that it's a virtue to hate politics. It's a virtue to hate political action, right? Like, you should not want to do politics. You should leave that to the other people because all politics is terrible and you should hate it. And so that keeps people from being invested in what happens politically. It keeps people from understanding political strategy and coordination. So political literacy and creating a world where political action is seen as a virtue rather than a vice is also critical. So I guess, how do you take this ideology that is individualistic? So I think, first of all, you stop talking about non-involvement as being a virtue. I've written on that before, and I'm usurping Phil's spotlight, so I'm not going to talk too much longer. But you stop taking on involvement as a virtue. The principle on which our ideology is predicated is self-ownership. It's not any type of non-action. It is self-ownership. And then once we see that and we commit to upholding individual self-ownership and fighting for it, then we start to see actual change where individuality is celebrated as a tool for collective political change. Yes, Terry, exactly. Being an individualist also means you have to respect others' individualism and not judge before knowing who they really are. Yeah. But I rambled, so.
You gave a good answer. I mean, I was nodding. I was with it. I think there's so like we're interviewing Phil, and Phil and I have talked at length both on and off camera. The first time I really interacted with Phil in a meaningful way in a dispute afterwards, I called him and I was like, so you've been through some shit in your life, haven't you? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, because you didn't flip out when people were disagreeing with you. Like, you just stayed calm. There's this sort of certain even keeledness that comes with, like, I don't know, being tested and passing. Mm-hmm. But it all comes back into this attitude, this positivity. It's like you can only move two directions. You can move towards something or away from something. And we are moving towards something. We're not running from something.
Right.
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point of, like, the reason why, like, when people are like, oh, you're anti this or anti that, we made, like, a meaningful, judgment in the beginning to say, like, no, we are not doing that. And so, like, even in, like, some of the first foundational chats, I went back before we even had the Discord and the foundational personal, like, one-on-one chats, and it was all kind of the idea that, like, it cannot be a, like, anti the past. Like, that can't be the way it is. It has to be saying we want something completely different than we've seen. And so when we always get, some people are like, make jokes about Sarwark or whatever, and we kind of play into it here occasionally. And they're like, this was Sarwark's project or something like that. And, like, it's like, no, it's not at all. We're not the old guard that were there before. Most of us are people that were not taking any kind of active roles in the party ever. And that then that was, like, the initial people, and then kind of other people came in around it. But yeah, I think that's kind of what's allowed it,
Yeah. And it's not being against something as much as it's being for something,
yeah.
Which is hard, right? Because when you have a large coalition, a lot of folks can agree on what they don't like, but what are we moving toward? That's another place where a lot of movements fail, right? Is, okay, we're against this. And then there's what happens after that. Which is why we decided to go the route of, no, we're going to be for something. It's going to be a very specific, concrete set of demands. And they're going to be, again, measurable and material, but it's not going to be this huge laundry list so that we can all evangelize it and we can all talk about it. And
initially people were kind of like along certain lines were very kind of against that. Like we have to add certain statements back. We have to, promote the right to abortion. We have to do all of this. And like, so there's very small things that we actually have to silo off. But even as siloing off, we don't shut down the discussion. I've been in a couple spaces on Twitter where like, hey, we can't talk about the abortion thing from both sides. It's like, no, you can. You just can't view the other person as evil, regardless of like your personal opinions on it, and respect that these people, don't view things the same way. And then find a way that you can communicate kind of the ideals and principles together and formulate that in a way that does not kind of cause mass offense from one or another. But the only way that happens is not from a centralized position, which I think people that in the past have failed is
that comment.
Take off the mask. It's the scarf. Yeah. Where was I? What was I saying?
The only way we all push through that.
Not from a centralized position.
Oh yeah. And so they think this was a failure of priors, that they would take either personalities or singular ideas and kind of set them in stone, and not being willing to adapt it, not be willing to adapt or adjust their kind of opinion, and like that's just not how things work. You can't do that. We know why centralization fails. And like, unfortunately, the people that came out claiming to be, kind of decentralized in revolution were very centralized after a certain point.
Decentralized centralization.
Yeah. It's either you kind of fall in line with this very specific kind of aim, or you're gone. And it was a wide aim. It wasn't even a narrow aim. Let's be neo-prags and be GOP light. That's what it turned into. It was like, it has to be that, or you're not in that anymore. But yeah, I'm overall like at a point now where I feel like we've kind of gone over some hurdles. We have process kind of naturally, spontaneously formed to get things done. And, like we have consistent meetings, like we're not missing meetings, like the people in the LNC sometimes miss meetings, and your local affiliates might miss meetings. Like we have a weekly meeting, right? Where we're planning things, where we're discussing,
it's mostly just Amanda yelling at people.
That's not entirely true. Sometimes people, answer when I'm yelling about. I have a meeting document. I have notes all typed up. They're there.
I'm kidding.
I know. But
no, people take that seriously. I should.
No, I'm. It's fine. I'm willing to be the lightning rod there. In many other arenas as well. No, but I do think it's worth dwelling on a little bit that can't be anti-fundamentally, right? And this is my problem that I have talked about with the non-aggression principle. It's not a principle, it's a corollary. And it's important to note that it's a corollary because that is what actually makes it defendable, right? If you just start out where you're against something, there is no reason that you're against it, right? We have a common reason that we oppose initiation of force. That's the principle. That is the primary thing on which
So there's been these big debates going on right now about the non-aggression principle, obviously with Dave, and like kind of the basis of their argument for non-aggression principle is always like, well, it's a philosophy to minimize conflict, and it's like, well, why do you care about minimizing conflict? Like there's a root below it that gets ignored and says, well, it doesn't really matter. It's just we want to avoid conflict over property or scarce resources,
and that is what creates the isolationism. Is like I can't have the conflict, and it's not about me. So,
well, I think it causes more likely to people to be like, well, I have to prove that I'm right in this every single way. And I think you're right, is that they're fine with conflict as long as it's proving every individual person's right way. And then you can't get anything done. And I think you can definitely, I think we need as many people with as many different ideologies pulling people closer. As long as whatever those people are is not pointing one of the the principles in the wrong direction, like we saw with Dave Smith really promoting something going completely the opposite direction of libertarianism, establishing militaries on our borders, and what we're seeing with this police state. Like that is a completely wrong direction of kind of libertarian thought. And so I'm very much of the mind of like, if you want to go in the right direction, we should be finding ways to communicate and get to that. And what it requires is people not to like shit on each other and be like, well, you're a lulbert because you care a lot about principles. It's like, well, no, like we should be respecting each person's version of their principles and discussing them and rooting out kind of the fundamentals of it. And there will be disagreements. Like I'm sure there are plenty of ANCAPs that would disagree with kind of me and your assumption that there is something beyond just this conflict avoidance, right? It's the why.
And that's the entire point, right? Like, so, and I think the neoprags, which, you know, I think that phrase, I'm going to guess that phrase came about at about the same time. I remember using it in December of 2024 on various podcasts and things. But those who we now call the neoprags, I think, are the perfect example of what happens when you're like, the non-aggression principle is literally the principle. Because if you admit to nothing before that, if you admit to no reason for which you oppose aggression, and you're just like, no, it's about conflict avoidance, it's about not allowing for aggression, then you become able to justify acts of aggression because there is nothing that comes before it that you're actually upholding and fighting for. This is why you see people like Smith justifying acts of aggression against people who are peacefully on American soil, because there is nothing actually positive that is being defended. It's just all negate, 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 negate. And when you negate, you are an inherently reactionary. You are in an inherently reactionary position.
Yeah, and I think you're right on this. I also think, like, you know, we discussed with Jo Jorgensen on her show the idea of this kind of pledge that we signed to be a part of the party, that we are going to never use, you know, physical force to get our political goals. And I'm like, what? Like, even like the classical liberals are like, time to grab the muskets, right? Like, so like what are you saying? We have to sign this thing that says like we will never defend our rights? Like, what are you doing?
And it was created to actually signal to the government that this is true. It was created to say yes.
We're not a threat.
And I'm like, you know, bro, I that's not going to keep the government from hating us anyhow. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. It's
as we've seen, right? As we've seen with you know, people being attacked by the government for doing kind of nothing that would violate our principles, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges and growing pains that we've had in LPAlliance?
I would say it's probably like narrow skill sets, like a couple people like that have very specific narrow skill sets, and them being required to like keep doing that same skill set while they're also taking on other hats. So that's like, I think that's the only thing that I would say is like the real growing pain, is because we keep expanding the projects that we want to involve in. And like, at some point it's like, man, like, we're going to need to like think about the Revolutionary Spending Committee of like, do we start paying people to like help out with these? Do we start, you know, but obviously now we are hoarding money to get as many people to the Grand Rapids Revolution. We are trying to get 100 people there. And so if you want to donate, I don't know how to bring these things up. Do you know how to bring them up on here?
I do actually. Right, so I need to minimize this really quickly, I will do the thing. QR codes. There we go.
So if you want to donate, check out one of these QR codes right now. Like I said, all of the funding is going to help getting people to convention.
Yes. And so we've calculated that we're estimating about $750 is going to be travel and board at the Grand Rapids Revolution. We're trying to get 100 people to the Grand Rapids Revolution, at least paying for them for the Povertarians. So you know, we're about to launch, you know, a recurring giving campaign. You donate, you know, $50, $100 a month. Then that means that you're getting people to the Grand Rapids Revolution. That means that you're paying for some of our overhead costs, because right now all of this is out of pocket, whether it's web hosting, whether it's building servers, whether it's having Restream. It's all out of pocket. So you're paying for overhead, but most importantly, you know, you give $100 a month, you're getting someone to Grand Rapids. And that is huge. So thank you.
I mean, if really for the people that may not be as on the ground, but still believe in an effective libertarian party, and you believe in kind of the idea that we should have solidarity and kind of have as many good faith people operating the party with different ideologies as possible, then I would ask you that you would give, like, even if you can't get involved directly inside of LPA organization due to time or whatever, if you do have funding, you know, throw some money that way. Everything that we do is open, and so you can actually come and see how money is spent, all that sort of stuff.
We also have a merch store, and part of our merch proceeds too go to it goes to paying for the merch, and then it goes to Grand Rapids Revolution. So none of it is actually going to us. You buy merch,
Yes.
you're helping pay for people to get to Grand Rapids too.
I don't think people like recognize that like all of the
Right.
stuff that's in LPA that we pay for, like that's all just by like people that are involved. Like, okay, I'll pay for this thing, you'll pay for that thing, and there's not like a balance sheet. Nobody's like, I spent this much on this, I spent this much on that. That's just not what it is. You know, so I like it's one of the reasons I think why sometimes I'm like, man, there are some like anarchists that are like, you can only have singular ownership or singular kind of investment into something. And I'm like looking around, like we're seeing that not be the case.
Right.
You know, like people will invest in it if they feel a part of it. So it's been cool. But yeah, if you want to give for a specific cause of getting people to the convention, people that are allies with us, and I say allies, it doesn't necessarily mean they're inside the Discord or whatever. It's people that are aligned with this vision of a better party. So there are allies that are not in the Discord. There are allies that, you know, aren't even viewers, people that might not even know us specifically. But if we know that they're aligned, we're going to do our best to get them to the Grand Rapids.
Right. I don't know how long we actually agreed to go. So this is
it turned into not a spotlight about me. It turned into like a spotlight for LPA.
Spotlight.
To be fair, that's kind of your spot. I mean, it is a fitting tribute, I think.
Phil, tell us about you then. What should we spotlight about Phil Rein?
I'm a horrible person. Like that's the truth. I'm a horrible person.
This is actually Phil's in purgatory right now. He's he's been sent back down to earth to do repentance for being a horrible statist.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is not true, man. I'm second generation libertarian. I was never on any of those two parties.
There we go. That's a fun fact about Phil, second generation libertarian. How is that growing up? That's crazy.
Well, like I say it, but like some people are like, hey, constitutionalists aren't like, you know, libertarian. But I'm like, hey, a constitutionalist in my mind is like a category of libertarian. So I had a constitutionalist father. And then like the world is going to end at some point prepping mother. And so that kind of maybe informs the anarchist leanings that I have, just by you grew up that way. And the only thing that ever even came close to kind of what I wanted was the Libertarian Party. So
has your ideology changed since being an LPA?
I think I was always a little bit, you know, more willing to say like, oh, I'm a minarchist as a thing. Whereas like now I'm like, you know, like I've been an anarchist for a long time, but it always felt like easier to deal with public.
The anarchist
if you're
closet.
Like, yeah, like if you're like a minarchist, and I think like at some point I was like, no, this is stupid. I'm just gonna say like who I am and like what my political beliefs are. But yeah, I would say that would be it. You know, because I'd always worried like, you know, there are like, you know, sometimes where like the you are not a real libertarian thing comes a lot from people that would also label themselves an anarchist. And so like if I was automatically just saying that, are like people going to think that way and not come towards solidarity around the shared principles that we have?
Right.
So, but yeah, that changed because I saw like, hey, there's anarchists, you know, there's libertarian socialists, there's Ron Paul people, and like we're all communicating and it's not lighting on fire. So I was like, okay, I can come out of the anarchist closet a little bit.
There we go, and we welcome you. Rob, what further questions do you have for Phil about his life and pastimes and demons and trauma?
So you talked earlier about kind of the work you were putting into it. I don't know how much you want to get into this. You have been public to some degree, but like you felt pretty betrayed by the party for a minute there. So what motivated you to get back in?
Oh, I think it was that like everything was like around burning, and it's like, well, there's nothing else, right? Like it's either we figure this out or like it's almost like this is like the last opportunity in my mind, you know, like either we do this and like we actually shape politics in America in a dramatic way and build mass movements, or like it's going to be like totalitarian AI state and there's nothing we can do. And so I think that might have been like, look, here's like, this is it. And like, we probably all should think about that very carefully about the idea of kind of technologically advanced totalitarianism entering our world and say, what am I willing to do to stop that from happening? That should be like a question each of us ask ourselves. And as things progress, are we going to stay silent? Are we going to not form, not go loud, not be in the public? I think that's kind of an unacceptable stance at this point, is to like stay quiet. And that's what I was. I was basically, I was atomistic. I was very much like, I am preparing for my family and the people directly around me for kind of like eventual collapse, you know? And I just don't think you can do that anymore.
Yeah, it's been cool seeing people again develop more of that fellowship, and it comes again, I think, from seeing political action as both not an inherent vice and not inherently hopeless. So we have a lot of work to do outside of the party as well as inside the party, but like we're
Yeah.
getting started. We're getting started.
Well, like we were talking about this a little bit before, like I feel like a lot of libertarian principles are like seeping out into kind of the world because of the actions of Trump.
Right.
And we're like, at the same time, we're like not seizing on it in the same way the party didn't seize on it during COVID. Like the Libertarian National Party is not seizing on it on the stage. They still want to present like Republican light.
Yeah.
And like you will never build a party from that. Like those people that are angry at the Republican Party are going to stay in the Republican Party and do something about it. Like they are right. They would never, they don't have the kind of open ideologies that we have that would accept everybody who lives peacefully themselves, like do whatever you want, as long as you're not harming another. Most people aren't like that, right? And especially not the people that might be pretty angry at Trump right now. So I think if you can reach a portion of them, great, pull them in. But that shouldn't be the main focus. The main focus should be like, here's what we cultivate. This is what we believe in. And go from that. And then I think naturally you will pull people in from all the sides that will kind of align with it.
A plurality of Americans do not like either major political party, right? Yeah. And but here's the thing too, is we have to be really honest about this. There's no going back. Okay, there's no sun moon party anymore. There's no, the Republicans are in, the Democrats are out, and so now we have different policies depending on who's in and who's out. There is totalitarianism from henceforward. Okay. Trump has opened that door, and COVID certainly helped. Yeah. And before that, the Patriot Act helped. Yeah. But with Trump's totalitarianism, the only way that Democrats can respond is by using those same tools, and then Republicans will use those same tools. Yep. There is no going back, and there is no going forward with either major political party. They're going to be doing the same things, and it's going to be against all of us. So there is no time but now. And we all have to work together on that. So I'm happy that we're starting now, but we just have to keep going. Because again, there's no going back.
Well, yeah. And I mean, like, like we're definitely going to be rolling out, like after the Grand Rapids Revolution, we're going to start rolling out like much more recruitment efforts, going to campuses, doing demonstrations, kind of earned media, loud media. And like that needs to be our goal as well, right? Like it's the reason why I think there is some disagreement of like, oh, well, the party should only run candidates. And like, it's like the party is the members, and the members cannot only focus on candidates. They cannot only focus on like one idol or figurehead. Yeah. It has to be as spread out and doing as many kind of areas of battle within the political space as possible. And so like we will be rolling out more of these things as time goes on. We did a couple pilot ones at like No Kings, where we went out, pretty well received from the people that I've spoken to.
Talk about your thing, by the way. If
yeah.
You did some work in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there's a sound ordinance in a local township in Pennsylvania that essentially made everything illegal. Any sort of noise complaint, you could immediately get an injunction against your property. Even so much as like we're in a rural area, people had like their neighbors called for riding dirt bikes on their property, something that's like very common in a rural area, and it caused them to kind of use the power of government over a zoning complaint to shut down a family nonprofit that was helping people kind of gain recovery by riding dirt bikes and teaching kids how to ride dirt bikes to keep them from getting in trouble. And that's all shut down because of like a local tyrant. And so we did like a kind of a hit piece for one of the elections of like a flyer that is like, all of these things are now illegal based on the decibels. They basically said, hey, no matter what, 65 decibels or higher, it's now illegal. And like, this conversation we're having is like 65 decibels, so it was like, holy crap. And like, we're in a rural area, you mow your lawn and you're breaking a sound ordinance, and they can use it in a very targeted way. And that's what ended up happening. They targeted one family. And so we got involved with them, started communicating with them. And we're still advising some things to do now, because the guy that is doing this to him. He won his reelection. Unfortunately, we only got involved in the last like month, so we couldn't do like mailers and things like that, which we really wanted to do. But like literally like a week before the election is when we like really got involved. But like going forward, that'll be sort of the things that we're going to do at local levels. We were going to encourage our members to do the same thing. Which again, there's a criticism like, oh, you only do things online. I want you to see you fighting government in person. And like, yes, we are doing that, but we don't really advertise that. We're not like going out and being like, this
Sometimes
is what we
for
do.
reasons.
Yeah.
Because there's some stuff we do locally that we will make deliberate choices when we put it out and deliberate choices when we don't. That can backfire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that is a huge part of what we want to do and that we've started to do. I think piloting is a good word for it, that we are finding these groups of people who are not necessarily political and, coming to their aid, doing mutual aid stuff and canvassing again on issues. This is again something that I wrote about a while back. You get people into this movement by making them leaders. And this is why I loved you taking on this cause so much, Phil. Because it was very, very, it vindicated things that I talked about, that you get people in the movement by going to them and involving them, making them leaders in causes that are materially salient to them, right?
Yeah.
And so you found that, we're finding that all over, and bringing people into the liberty movement that way, not through, hey, can you get some signatures for this candidate, please? But no, this is affecting your life. Let's do something about it. What can you do? And, let's hand out flyers. Let's have you go and speak at a town hall, that kind of thing. That is what gets people invested. So that I love seeing us doing that.
I will say, like, immediately upon speaking with them, you start communicating with them. And this is a person that has like largely been apolitical. And we just started discussing kind of the philosophy. And the guy is like a full-blown libertarian, like almost
that is how you do it.
Almost like a full-blown anarchist. And he's been apolitical, but the government has come to his doorstep. And so, we were trying to get involved with the kind of the media process, kind of the level of communication that was happening, because they were like really just like shouting at the government. And like, I was like, this is dope. Like, we have to get involved with these people. But we also need to like guide them. I'm like, how do you communicate in a way that like brings the community to your support? And that's what we were trying to do. And I think we did impact the votes. Because the person that like was running against us did get higher than they were going to. And one of the ways we did that is we bought sound metering devices. And so the people that were handing out flyers there were using the sound device and going up to somebody with a flyer and saying, this conversation was illegal. Do you see it says this is like 75 decibels? And then handing the flyer. And so like those kind of real world, like look at the absurdity of the kind of local tyranny. I think like more of those things and pulling in more of the people that are directly impacted by government is great. And like You Are the Power does this really well, but they don't pull them into a political thing, right? They are like the nonprofit warriors that go out with the spirit of libertarianism and resistance against the government and fights it. I think we want to play a role of like where we're pulling people in as well in that process. Us as individual volunteers going to support somebody in our local community, then pulling them in, particularly,
And this is a case study in radical maximalism and individualist theory of collective action, which I believe someone named Amanda Griffiths wrote some theses on. I don't know. She's kind of a dick, though.
When she says theses, she's not kidding.
I'm not joking.
Yeah, everything she's ever written, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I'm writing a dissertation with a bunch of science words in it, and I'm like, I read that, and I'm like, oh my god.
I'm still working on the first article Amanda wrote. I've been working for 4 months.
Well, you got to look up every fourth word. You have to be like, what does this word mean?
Not that bad. It's more like every eighth word.
Maybe for you it's every eighth word. For me, I'm as like a not.
So there's an aside. There was a famous literary beef between Faulkner and Hemingway. So they were both. Faulkner was being interviewed by actually Vanity Fair, I believe, which was like a popular normal magazine at the time, and he
people
said,
know what Vanity Fair is. Sorry, go on.
But like in 1948, it was worth reading. And Faulkner said, poor Hemingway, he's never written a word, or Hemingway has never written a word that has sent a reader to the dictionary. And so they interviewed Hemingway the next month, and in response, he said, poor Faulkner, does he really think big words make big emotions? And now I told my wife this, and we have a thing where she's like, less Faulkner, more Hemingway. And I feel like,
but see, like, I don't care about emotions, so I'm trying to.
We all know that, for God's sake.
Funny.
We are an hour and 17 minutes in. I can always keep going, but I want to be mindful of Phil's time because, again, you can see that he's broadcasting from under an overpass right now.
It's
crawled out of a
a
manhole.
bunker. It's a survivalist bunker, obviously.
Yeah, it's a manhole. It's a bunker that a manhole that he calls a bunker. Phil, what more do you have to say for yourself? Rob, what more do you have to say for yourself?
I would just say for the people that are like watching or listening, like come hang out in the Alliance chat. We call it Gen Pop because it's the general population. And if you have a disagreement or something like that, and you want to discuss kind of your ideas for the party or the movement, get involved, do it. Like Amanda said earlier, when new people join and they kind of move up, they then start shaping the direction as well, right? And the more people we have guiding it with different voices, the better. And like legitimately, you will not be called "you're not a real libertarian." We want to find the things that we can agree on and communicate them. And you might have somebody that's like very, very strong in their principles say like, well, that's not this, but they're not going to call you not a libertarian. They're not going to say you're not worth having solidarity around. They might say, this is what I believe. And then you can discuss the merits of that. And we've had people sway their ideas, sway their opinions on things, maybe change decisions on strategy. And all of that happens because it's open communication. So come do that, get involved. And, if not, but you want to be external and ally, great. Read, write for the journal, the torch.media, and, get your ideas out that way if you don't want to be directly involved. And like I said, we will publish basically anything as long as it's not written by AI or promoting some like crazy status level of big government socialism.
We might even publish that to laugh at it. It's really going to depend, honestly. Like I can see us doing that, but just be prepared. It'll be like the Kronstadt anarchists publishing things from the Red Gazette. Anyway, nobody got that reference, and it's fine. I'm just moving on. Rob, how are you doing? Do you have anything to add?
Everything I said at the beginning, not heaping praise, not kissing ass. I've been amazed at the ability of this many libertarians to come together and mostly not argue and actually work towards something. It's been truly refreshing. And then we're seeing results, and it's slow but sure. When I think about what it takes to really like make us a free country again. So I will tell everyone listening, I am a dirty statist. I'm a proud and avowed minarchist. I love this country. I've lived in a communist country. I've seen how bad things can be. The ideas that formed the United States, I believe, are the single greatest social achievement in human history. I think the implementation has been far from perfect. I think we have a long way to go, but I think we can get back there. But to get there, I think about like if you have seen Any Given Sunday, Al Pacino's speech at the end, where it's like you got to take it back. Every inch counts. We're fighting a machine that has infinite funds. They make the rules. They hold all the levers of power. Like it is a monumental task. And if we're fighting each other, there's no hope. And so to come in and see what I say y'all as the leaders of it, but I'm very much a part of it and consider myself a part of it. Well, I mean,
the members of the leaders. I mean, it's. But go on.
Yeah, I hate the word. I hate the word leader. I hate the word founder. Like we distinctly like we will not use these words.
When I say leader, I think of it in like a business sense, like the first movers. Fair. You're both nerds in other subjects.
Fair.
But it has in every way lived up to its promise, and everything is fragile. Everything is always fragile. Stuff can always fall apart. But if it's going to succeed, it's like, here's the 18 million things that have to happen to succeed. And it's like, we're at 42, but no one's ever gotten to 42 before, and there haven't been slips. And that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And no, it really is great. And it has genuinely, I don't even want to say restored my faith in humanity. I have faith in people that I didn't have before starting this. So, and it really is, it's thanks to all the members, and it's thanks to Phil for taking the initiative to take the risk. Guys,
we broke the show on a Monday night. I think the first one was like 60 or something. Yeah. Everyone was real happy about that. If you're listening, why haven't you joined? Jump on the Discord.
Do it.
Like, if nothing else, you can see when something's coming up, when there's an event, when you can help promote something, what we're doing for convention. So take the step, get involved. It doesn't take a lot.
And if you do want to get involved, yes, that is discord.gg/LP-Alliance. We're on X. We're on other social media platforms as well, but I only care about the X because I am the one who tweets on it. Sometimes, not always. Dodgeball. So that's X at LP_allies. And please do check out the torch.media, write for it, read for it, and do support us, please. We are getting 100 people to the Grand Rapids Revolution. One of them could be you, or you could help sponsor people going there as well. Our movement is stronger with you, and it always will be. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Phil, for being here. Rob, you're okay too, I guess. And thank you to our wonderful audience. We will see you, I think, tomorrow night for a Solidarity stream. Good night, guys.